Yeah. Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, good evening, welcome everyone. Now we start the last session, the POLITUR International Workshop webinar. The thematic area is identification and discussion of systems for evaluating the social impact of research on mobilities. Following the program, this afternoon we have the Professor Dejan, Križaj, and we will be accompanied with Tajet and Rudy, okay, keynote speakers for this session. And also we have the opportunity to listen 5 presentations by researchers from different universities: Open University of Catalonia, Ostelea Tourism Management School, Autonomous University of Barcelona, and of course, Rovira Virgili University. Thank you, Olano, and the rest of the audience for being here today, okay? Okay, let's start. It's a pleasure, okay, to introduce the Professor Dejan Križaj, University of Primorska, Slovenia. Okay, keynote speaker of this session. I will try to make a short introduction, okay? Dejan Križaj's research and publications focus on R&D in tourism and the promotion and measurement of tourism innovation. He is co-founder of Alliance for Innovator and Researchers in Tourism and Hospitality. Since 2006, he is a chairman of the Slovenian National Tourism Innovation Awards Commission on behalf of Slovenian Tourism Board and Minister of Economic Development and Technology. His projects and innovation efforts has been internationally recognized. Teaching tourism and tourism innovation courses and undergraduate and graduate levels. The presentation title is Tourism for How Research Support Industry Green Transitions. And it's okay, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Dejan, Tajet, and Rudy. Please, okay, thank you. Share your presentation when you want.
Your microphone is off.
Yes, I'm just trying. Okay, now it's working. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And since today is Black Friday, we decided to give you 3 keynotes for the price of 1. I'm joking. I invited 2 of my students from my University of Primorska, where I teach, and we will be talking about Tourism 4.0 and also Tourism Beyond 4.0 and how research contributes to sustainable industry transitions. So Tourism 4.0 in Slovenia means or represents the biggest R&D public funded project in the field of tourism in our country. And it addresses all stakeholders of the smart tourism ecosystem to be. So by enabling a collaboration, unlock the innovation potential and so on. And the goal is to build an ecosystem centered around the local community and with as much as possible data-driven strategic planning and boosting the positive impacts of such tourism. The Tourism 4.0 project is one of the 4 projects currently already in the process, all inside so-called technology readiness level scheme, co-financed by our Ministry of Education, Science and Sport and by European Union. And the first one, you see, the pink one, is the one I'm talking about, is the first one, and it was initiated by Arctur. It's a Slovenian service provider of supercomputing, and they do a lot of research and development with other institutes. So they invited all 3 universities from Slovenia, also our Faculty of Tourism Studies. And we have an associate partner association of municipalities and towns of Slovenia. In a nutshell, what we want to achieve or what we are doing, because this is 3 to 6 technology readiness levels. So we're talking about the concepts, the prototypes. We are building the platform, the concept of the platform with 4 basic building pillars or deliverable categories. The first would be tourism impact model, with which we try to measure with all sensors possible and all inputs possible what's happening with tourism and what are the values we are getting back, and based on that, try to manage tourist flows around Slovenia, and also try to nudge tourists with a so-called collaboration impact token mechanism and enable a personal digital passport, in which way we could then also be offering the individual personalized offer as much as possible or as much as shared via this digital passport. All this is just, like I said, is the foundation, all the pillars or the highway on which different applications and solutions from third parties can run. And this is what we are doing in the prototype phase, as I said, in this our part of the project. And then already in a start, there's another project already started. The whole sum, as you can see, is around 16 million euros, but this is the second one that started, is the biggest one, because in this one, we would like to also develop and run a living lab with all these solutions, also playing with them, not just by us, but also by different stakeholders and of course by different users. But as you can see at the down below the picture, and as it's happening also in your country, we have this new situation and we have this big frozen tourism block of things not moving, not happening. We are trying to push it around, but of course now this part of project is the most endangered part of the project, because we are right now in this shock and in this phase when the living lab should start to live. So while waiting and moving and seeing what we can do, all the stakeholders of this project and also the mentioned Alliance for Innovators and Researchers in Tourism and Hospitality, another global association, we initiated so-called Tourism from Zero initiative. So now while we wait, especially for the partners from industry, these are the ones I'm talking about here, we try to understand what's happening, what can we do, what are the challenges, concerns, and also, of course, ideas and solutions, how to move things from here. So currently, what I can share with you, we started with this, the survey part of the web page of Tourism from Zero. We collected more than 700 responses. You can play with them on our website, so to feel what people are thinking, what the tourism is thinking and working on. And of course, among them, we collected more than 200 ideas already. We have some movement on social media, some traffic, and we have 2 ideas that started a life of their own, started inside this initiative. And today, and Rudy will later on talk about them, how and what we do with them, and how they are integrating these 2 ideas in their research, in their PhD and master thesis. So Rudy will be talking right after me about his podcast idea or his podcast project. And what is interesting here, one of the episodes in this project was talking about motorhomes. One of the guests was talking about it with Rudy. And Urška, she is the Chief Innovation Officer in Arctur, so she is one of the main forces of the Tourism 4.0 project, was listening to it, and now we are really, like it happened a week ago, we started to think, since we have this living lab, we have this frozen situation, there was an idea that living lab would be some fixed location in some place where everybody would be playing with all these technologies and applications. And now, also because of this idea, we are starting to think maybe things would move faster if we would change the fixed location to a network of motorhome stopovers, and of course the motorhomes which maybe could be used instead of some fixed buildings, facilities for this living lab. Nevertheless, this was an idea what we do and how we are trying to, can we do while we wait for Tourism 4.0 to move forward after tourism start breathing again. And there were some ideas, and I mentioned just one that is just happened. But now what I would like to do is to ask Rudy, and then later on today, to explain their parts of these ideas and how they are incorporating this in their research. Thank you. And Rudy, I will stop sharing now and ask you to start.
Thank you, Professor. And hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to my part of this project. I'll just share the screen. Do you see it? Just checking. Okay, like Professor Dejan Križaj mentioned, I started a podcast to see how different tourism stakeholders view tourism after COVID-19, after the pandemic. It is part of my research method. Just checking, do you see the screen? Okay, yes, no. Yes, the podcast is a part of my research method, where through my master thesis, I am finding out how do different tourism stakeholders in Slovenia and abroad view tourism after COVID. How do they, what challenges do they have? What solutions can they offer? And how do they view, how can we restart tourism from zero? Like I said, I was inspired by the Tourism from Zero initiative, which was already doing this. It was collecting ideas from all over the world through the questionnaire. I really just wanted to go deeper and make a more deeper conversation with these stakeholders to really find out and really compare different approaches of their research, and I compare it with the Tourism from Zero initiative responses. So far, I have made 14 interviews, 12 in Slovenian language and 2 in English language. These are, like I said, very different types of stakeholders, and each of them has different issues and different ideas on how to restart tourism. What are my interests that are part of my research, my master thesis? I would like to get, like I said, ideas. How do they view, how they like to restart tourism? I would like to know what kind of challenges, what kind of problems are they facing during this time of COVID or before COVID? What kind of solutions do they have? What can they offer? What are their views on tourism before, during, and after COVID-19? And also, what's very important, what has changed because of COVID in their field? I have already checked some similar research on the similar subject on COVID-19 and the solutions we can offer. What has COVID, how has COVID affected tourism? And like we see here, some authors have identified the most frequently mentioned types of impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry, which is basically also the subjects that are part of our conversations in the podcast. The one connection is also the media strategy we could use in addressing the tourists. What kind of channels would we be using? How would we communicate with them? And also that COVID-19 has different impacts on tourism operators based on their characteristics. It is based on their nature of their tourism sector, like we see here, and their size, location, management, and ownership style. And this brings us to my guests. My guests are really stakeholders from different walks of tourism life. They each have a different view on tourism, different problems, and different solutions. Like we see here, one that you probably know, Dr. Antonio Russo, professor in tourism management. This is one guest. And on the other hand, we have one guest who is a mountain biker, and he has a passion for biking, and he founded a hotel for bikers, a boutique hotel. And they really, I really use a different approach to every guest because, of course, everyone has different views on tourism. And like we see here, I speak to academics, tourism entrepreneurs, local providers, craftsmen, CEOs, and connectors. The main topics are stakeholder collaboration or the lack of it, which is the most common topic that has appeared in my research. The inclusion of local craftsmen. We should use the bottom-up approach. That is also a very common statement, especially from Slovenia. The importance of community building, the connection between technology and travel, which Dr. Dejan has already mentioned, preserving and monetizing our cultural heritage. So not just preserving, but also how to monetize. Marketing during COVID, media, how to address tourists, how to communicate with them on which platforms, and how to address the problem of over-tourism. And what have we learned so far? After every episode, I extract the main quotes, the main subjects that were discussed in the episode, and we, like you see here, we make quotes and we share them with our followers on social media. And we also compare them with every guest, we can compare the quotes or the problems that he has faced. And that's basically how we spread the message of our podcasts, of our Tourism from Zero ideas all over the world. This podcast and all of the ideas have also become an educational material for students of tourism. Some of our professors and our faculty are already sharing the podcast to the students because it's very a different approach and they hear a lot of different subjects. But not only students, as entrepreneurs as well, and everyone who is active in tourism and wants to hear more about the tourism-related issues. The podcast has over 2,000 plus listens. I'm, of course, not prepared to stop yet. So I would really invite you, if you're interested, to take a look at one of our episodes. So you can find them at podcast.tourismfromzero.org. If you are interested, two are in English. So I really invite you to listen and to provide a comment, of course. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Rudy. Yes, don't stop, don't freeze. Just run forward, run the project. And today also has another project to share and another insights he will be collecting. Please, today.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Just a second. Okay, welcome everyone in my name as well. Hopefully, I hope you see my screen and you can hear me well. Okay, so just a second. Okay, so my name is Tadej Rogelja and I'm the student at the Faculty for Tourism in the Faculty for Tourism, Turistica in Portorož. So as Dejan mentioned earlier, he is involved in many initiatives and he is involved in many projects and he co-founded many different initiatives. And me as his teaching assistant, I'm a teaching assistant. I'm also involved in many of those projects, and we are all together working in the field of tourism. And why I'm here today with you, because I would like to really shortly present the things that we are working very hard on actively together with Rudy and Dr. Dejan. And this our project that I will present you now has attracted many other students as well recently. So the name of this project is actually Locals from Zero. Here is the link and you can check it out. It's available online. So among all the submitted ideas that we received through this questionnaire that Dan mentioned earlier, Tourism from Zero questionnaire, when we were asking different stakeholders all around the world how they feel and how they see the tourism of the future, we got one very specific and great idea. And this idea actually came straight from our faculty, from our Faculty of Tourism. Or to be more precise, this idea actually came from me and from Rudy, and we are actually idea leader here, and Dan is our supervisor and mentor. But okay, we are talking about marketplace for local experience, and most likely many of you would ask now, won't this be just one another marketplace for local experiences out there? And you have right, it's true, but we developed kind of model that has some significant differences. Okay, I will explain you now. So imagine, probably you know some marketplace for experiences out there that currently exists, like Airbnb, Viator, Get Your Guide, and all this. But all those platforms are just given out and left to the individuals themselves. So they are appropriate, we believe. Our assumption is that they're appropriate only for those people who have some previous experience in tourism, who has ICT knowledge, because you know the technology advancement is very huge in the recent years, and the population is aging at the same time. So we see a huge problem here, and we believe, especially here in Slovenia, we are a small country but very diversified, and we have really many small hidden local providers that are deprived or disadvantaged in this sense. So we came up with an idea to introduce new layer in this model. So we don't have only platform and hosts, so B2B or C2C model. We introduced one new layer, and these are scouts. So who are scouts? Scouts are enthusiast people in tourism scattered all across the country, and now we are spreading even across the borders, who know their region very good. And their job is to detect all these hidden local uncut providers and approach to them and ask them if they are willing to collaborate or to become listed on our platform. And what is another task of the scouts? They're actually taking care for them. These scouts are at the moment mainly students who are mostly ICT skilled and so on. And they're helping them in preparation, in creation of the experience, in translation of the text for experience. They're even accepting and receiving and confirming the bookings that arrive and so on. So they're kind of their backbone, okay? And this is the main concept of our marketplace. You can check all these first listings on our platform already now in this link here. And there are also many value propositions for all these parties involved. We have many parties involved in this concept, like scouts, communities, and tourists. I will not go very deep in it because we are short in time, but let me really quickly go it through. What is the benefit for Scout? Of course, for exchange of his work, they will receive their piece of cake in terms of commission. They will be receiving lifelong learning all the time. We are building huge community where they can exchange knowledge and so on. What are the value proposition for communities? They're also receiving the lifelong learning, and we are promoting them actually for free. And we are trying them to help to penetrate, to break through the market, okay? And what are value proposition for tourists? They can actually match their passions with all those hidden local providers. Because, for example, we have one tourist who loves herbs, and he can match on our platform with specific herbalists. Or maybe we have one person who loves making shoes. He can match with a passionist who is with shoemaker, let's say, okay? And there are many other value propositions from our side. And throughout, as I said before, this project attracted many students later on, and up until now, many sub-initiatives evolved out of it, like podcasts that Rudy explained before. We have 21 scouts from all across the country, and even from foreign country already, neighboring country. We are building a community of photographers. Why? Because we know that we need to have very good quality photos in order to attract tourists. And we have 43 bookable experience already listed on the platform. And we conducted more than 20 workshops recently, in recent months, across all the regions where we were talking to stakeholders. And actually, we figured out that many of those local stakeholders, local providers, don't even know that Airbnb experience and all other type of experience platform even exists. And our important thing in our concept is that usually every time before we list one specific experience on our platform, our team also make field visit to maybe fix the product, to elaborate, to talk with it, to improve the product before it goes public, okay? And there are even more initiatives, sub-initiatives that evolved out of it. Like 1 week ago, we organized a big startup weekend where winemakers and students got together and they exchanged and their ideas, and they were solving different problems. Because, you know, I'm not sure if you know, but in Slovenia, wine tourism is quite fragmented topic, okay? And through our initiative, we are also planning to build educational academy. So in the sense that we would like to build kind of mentorship programs that our knowledge would be available all the time for all our community, for scouts, for local hosts and all other. And there are many other stuff. And as we are constantly testing, inquiring different aspects of new model among tourists, scouts and local providers, I decided to build up my disposition and a dissertation on this project, of course, but this is more, here is more disclaimer. My PhD disposition is now in its infancy, actually, but I'm improving this. First off, I thought of using experiment as a method because I think that this type of method is very underused in tourism, and I found it very interesting. But later I changed my mind a bit and decided and found out actually that participatory action research would better fit my project. Why? Because action research basically associates research and practice. And we are working very closely with physical world, with the real world, with real problems on the field. And I believe that now we identified the problem. And now I think that we need to take few actions and then analyze and reflect after each action if we make any improvement. And that's how I would like to solve some problems. And here for the end, I attached few articles that were dealing in the past with similar issues and that were using similar type of methodological approaches. Thank you so much for listening, and feel free to ask us any questions, any question.
Okay, thank you today. This was it from our side, Marta. If you have any questions
thank you.
for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Dejan, for your keynote, and also many things, Tajet and Radi, for share your interesting projects. Okay, the questions. Sorry, I check. Okay, the first questions, Antonio Russo. Okay, Dejan and company. Okay, I would like to ask you if your project have some kind of built-in monitoring systems of their social and maybe also policies impacts.
I mean, yes, of course. There are several layers of what we do, and as I mentioned, at the backbone or the background is the big Tourism 4.0 project, where we try to systematically analyze the whole Slovenian ecosystem, trying to become a smart ecosystem and trying to, of course, have the locals in its core, as I mentioned at the beginning. And these two projects, especially what Dave was mentioning, are these local related activities through which we are collecting, like with Rudy method and other methods in the whole Tourism 4.0 umbrella, different types of surveys and secondary data analysis of course, all levels of sustainability. And of course, one of them would be social, and one of them would be addressing the issues that Paolo mentioned. Yes.
Okay. The next question, Mateus Kucha. Questions for Tajet. Okay. Are you not afraid that in the future these local, unique and now experienced attractions will be a subject of more mass tourism and their value will decrease?
No, I think no, because we are really promoting very, in this case, when we are gathering all these small providers, we are promoting very small visits. Like we have maximum number of people per experience, like 8 maximum. And that's why we try to, it's better. We suggest our local providers to rather increase price and accept fewer people than accept many people and have like kind of lower prices, because we are aware of this problem that can emerge out of it.
I have a question, okay? It's for Dejan and for Tajet and Rudy, okay? For me, it's a very important question, but I have a line research for social impact research, okay? Do you believe that tourist research take into account the social impact of the research now?
I'm not sure if we take already into account the social.
Yeah. Now in the tourist research, what role does the social impact research of tourist research?
Not sure, but social impact. So exactly, this was our, let's say, response. It also relates to the question before. We are aware that if we just implement some kind of tourism 4.0 space rocket system into the system, we did nothing for the local, specifically these local providers we start to talk about. Because at the beginning, it looked like, okay, this project will deal with social aspects. It will deal with this specifically the fragile local environments, but there was not a solution except of some sensors and trying to understand how to spread the tourists all over Slovenia. But now what we actually try to do is, like today said, we try to identify really good experiences. We try to help these local small providers to have an equal share of tourism cake in Slovenia. And of course, at the other side, again, already trying to think in advance and limit the number of bookings and number of tourists that can come to each of these experiences in exchange for higher price and higher quality, as Tadej said. So in this way, we try to address the local small communities and their needs and what are the dangers for them in terms of too big of a wave in tourism coming into the region.
Yeah, and I would add something that we called ourselves kind of kindergarten many times, because we are really kindergarten for those local bottom-up providers, and we would like to provide them the environment to break through the market, and later they can even looking for better marketplaces and solutions.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Okay, it's okay, and you in this case we invite you to continue talking in the YouTube chat. Thank you very much, Professor Dejan, Tajet, and Rudy. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to start with the rest of the presentations. Okay, the first is John Olano, Francesc González, and Salvador Anton of Rovira Virgili University and Open University of Catalonia. Okay, the title is Tourism Places as Opportunity Spaces. John, are you here? Yeah. When you want, share your. No? Okay. John, please open the phone, share your presentation. I have a problem. John? Okay. The next presentation, okay? The next presentation is a talk of the Fiammetta, Brandajs, and Antonio Paolo Russo, okay? Rovira Virgili University. The title of the study, the project, the presentation is the Smart City Less Just Destination, examining the relational agency of enabled tourism. Thanks. Fiammetta, are you ready? Yeah. Oh, yes.
Hi, everybody. I just
thank you, Fiammetta.
Go to share.
Okay.
Okay. And now I have to put this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Work.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay. So, hi, everybody. Okay. This is a preliminary work based on the conceptual block of the Horizon 2020 Smart Desk project, led by the Rovira Virgili University, and in which I'm involved as a postdoctoral researcher. The research combined the conceptual discussion around the mobility turn, approached as an apt conceptual framework to examine the transformation of tourist places, and around the relational turn, problematizing smart as motility. Motility in the sense that, okay, is how smart can expand our capacity to be mobile. And the second empirical step in which we analyzing the coevolution of smart project and social transformation in 5 Spanish cities, and with a zoom in Barcelona. That will be our case studies. Okay, as I mentioned before, the research is part of the Smart Destination project, which the main ambition are summarized, try to fill a knowledge gap about the effect of tourist mobility on urban inclusion and cohesion, and explore, design, and test the validity of potential innovative pathway to mitigate the social exclusion. In this context, the intention of this specific step are to excavate on social effect of the deployment of smart city strategy in the context of tourist city, to get a better and more contextualized understanding on the potential relationship between smart and more or less cohesive tourist city, and analyze the role played by ICT and technological infrastructure, smart system in facilitating the ensuring of mobility in urban space. In order to answer to these two questions, what are SmartNet hub tourist mobility and how they relationally resituate the incumbent resident population in the city? From the conceptual point of view, one more time, we look at that the mobilities body of study as the lens to study how smart tourism may reproduce social exclusion, how fast mobilities negotiate with this lower one. And from other hand, we look at the body of study of smart city and its conceptualization as urban strategy to enhance the quality of life, place, or economy in a framework of eco-efficiency and social justice, or smart city as a discursive device, smart as neoliberal corporate strategy. Okay, but what mean problematizing smart in the context of tourism? The approach of this work take into account the over-tourism and the social exclusion, and this issue related with the situation in the most important destination of Europe, maybe yes, before the pandemic crisis. The tourism-related externality producing social exclusion and the tourist practices that unsettling everyday mobility and life spaces, and consequently define smarter as place a solution or as additional driver, because the destination spaces become more navigable, dwellable, and socializable to this new generation of smart apps and user, because these tend to be tech-savvy for the mobile population, and because we try to find how smart development work relationally in empowering and resulting population of city users, okay, who are competing for in and for the space. A bit about the methodological framework. Okay, we look at the country level. Firstly, we analyze 5 Spanish cities ranking highly as smart city and strong that are strong tourist destination. After we scrutinize this smart destination project through a desk research, basically. And after we analyze the social exclusion trend that can be directly related to this project and system or initiative developed in these 5 cities. And okay, how I said before, the zoom in specific smart system and process for marginalization in Barcelona. This, okay, yes, this derive inside and develop a broader reflection of smart destination. The attempt to focusing on the realm of a smart destination involving the management of tourism mobility and the supply system. Okay, so this is present this outline of different domain of smart destination, specific project initiative in these 5 cities related to agent involved and some expected outcome from this adoption. For instance, we can say the domain of smart mobility, for instance, include all kind of system and application that can facilitate the public transport for visitor or the crowding access or road. But which are the reaches of this kind of implementation? This is a summarize of all the agents involved in this process. Okay, this is we talk now. I skip a bit the part of the 5 city in Spain. I just talk about the case study of Barcelona. This is the methodological framework of the zoom into specific smart system and process of marginalization at neighbor level in Barcelona. The goal here was identify the spatial distribution of some smart mobility service, as we can see. For example, a city bike parking, the charging station for electric park, and so on, and try to link the relationship between some mobility system with the socio-spatial process at neighbor level. This elaboration was carried out mainly through a desk research. On one hand, with geospatialization of these services, and on the other, an analysis of the set of the social indicator, include in this case, for example, the type of user, of digital user of the city. The results are disposed in a series of critical maps. This first map, for example, represents the different patterns of spatial distribution of the offer of the mobility systems, based on a cluster analysis. In this case, at census level. Specifically, this map identified the significant high and low concentration of service, of this mobility service, and how the distribution is constant or not in the territory. The map reveal a clear division of the city in these 2 parts. Okay, we have the most central east and west area, where the distribution of the by census parcel is high or low, but surrounded by a high cluster, and another extensive area, very different in the north, in which the distribution seems to be low or high, but surrounded by a low cluster. Okay, so we have, I think, a first picture of this difference in the city. Going ahead, the mapping of the availability of the mobility system that this time at neighbor level, we change a scale against the other social indicator, highlight the access of the development in correspondence with indicator related with medium high level of household income. we can observe in the map of in the left. Okay, the distribution of mobility service overrepresent the most intensive tourist area and the wealthiest district in the city. Okay, this is reveals some correspondence between high income and high level of number of initiative or system smart implemented in this neighborhood. The map in the middle represent the evolution, of this evolution of income, also household income, from 2015 to 2017. And this map show that the southeast axis is the show a sort of very rise situation. Okay, so we can attribute this rise with the population substitution process supported by the strong implementation of this smart mobility or not mobility initiative. Okay, this is correspond a bit with the neighborhood of Poblenou, that is a sort of innovative district of the city. The last map show again the distribution of the smart system overlap with the data of type of digital user. And okay, so the map once again the result are once again demonstrate this kind of pattern that we can see the Poblenou again and the other part of the city in the north west axis. There are a lot of advanced digital user, and there is a very high level of implementation of this kind of mobility system. Okay, so according to this fine scale analysis, the process of smartening up of mobility linked to the reproduction and acceleration of processes already underway of gentrification and touristification in some of this neighborhood we saw. Not only in terms of activation in specific point of interest for visitor. Okay, this neighborhood are not just touristic neighbor, but are attraction of temporary population that require plug-in to local network and access to global network. So the development of smart mobility service framed in this strategic axis from the northwest to southeast of Barcelona have been associated to the conversion of this urban area into global arena and up livelihood for cosmopolitan and diverse population of mobile dwellers, promoting a social spatial stratification, okay, by which these hypermobilized places rich in technological supply are opposed to other poor in global connection and in somehow unattractive for the global citizen, leading to actual and potential repercussion on higher mobility cost, causalization of employment, gentrification process. Okay, just some concluding remarks. Smart is not an objective reality, but a strongly framed by ideology, regime, and multiscalar agency. Okay, mobility in this case offer a proper lens to unravel how smart play out in social terms, redefine social inclusion, exclusion in relational terms, and levy a critic to mainstream corporate lead approach to smart city, and at least reframe the debate of right to the city, what is the urban cohesion and spatial justice as mobility issue to be changed in the realm of mobilities and politics. Okay. Okay, this is it for my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fiammetta, for your presentation. There are 2 questions, okay? Perfect. Which indexes did you consider for taking the 5 smarter cities in Spain?
Sorry, what is the?
Which indexes?
Ah, okay. Okay, I expected this question. Firstly, I skip a bit this part. We try to scrutinize different kind of rank of smart city and smart destination, but finally we decide to use a rank of smart city because really smart destination are not identified we can find ranking really of smart destination. There are some network of smart destination, something like this, but are not ranked. Another thing is that we would like to work on big city too. And the network of smart destination a lot of time not include this city like Barcelona or Madrid. And finally I can share in the chat the rank that we use. Okay.
Is Angelus Panaytopoulos, okay? Your question is, within the touristification, digitalization of the city, is there a space for discussion of the physical and social characteristics of the city and power imbalance?
I don't know if I understand the question. Can you please read again?
Okay, I copied the chat of the of the Zoom. Okay.
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 Lo puedo aprire.
One moment.
Okay.
Okay, it's copied.
Okay.
You see the question and
no.
No, it's okay. You
answer just read again.
Okay. You answer the question.
Okay, in the yes. Okay.
Okay, with YouTube.
Okay,
chat.
now I have yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Fiammetta.
Thank you.
Okay, it's the turn of John Olano, Francesc González, and Salvador Anton.
Okay.
Thank you, Fiammetta.
Thank you.
Olano, John Olano, Francesc González, and Salvador Anton. Okay, John, are you here? Okay, it's the Rovira University and Open University of Catalonia. The title of the presentation is Tourist Places as Opportunity Spaces. John?
Yes, thanks, Marta.
Okay,
sorry for the inconvenience of 10 minutes ago, but I don't know how it happens with my laptop. Here I'm going to present the first approach to tourist places as opportunity spaces. As we write in the title, is an empirical approach from the point of view of the residential attraction of the tourism cities. This presentation is based on my PhD thesis, defended just 1 year ago, and is done with my PhD supervisors, Francesc González and Salvador Anton. The content of this presentation is the normal content for this type of events, with a background, the objectives, the study area, the methodology, the results, and the concluding remarks. The background of the research is based on 3 main aspects. Firstly, the tourism urbanization as a process which allows to interpret the destination as a mobility edges with capacity to develop cities and urban systems. Tourist places are gaining in urbanity due to these new practices developed by individuals. Secondly, mobility based in residential attraction has 2 principal actors identified, who at the same time are developing new residential practices in tourist places. the low-level or not qualified workers in the one hand, and in the other hand, the creative or qualified workers. Thirdly, these practices are generated by one of the two actors in the tourism mobilities, the slow migrants, turned on new residents and workers, who have new practices are generated by new residents and workers. In this sense, conditions of the place are basic for developed practices because are basic for attract new residents. On the other hand, we have focused these new practices on the residential practices. The attraction is based on a tangible and intangible aspects of the place. Based on this quick background, our working hypothesis is the next. On tourism places exist correspondence with the factors that we understand as generators of spaces of opportunity spaces for different social groups. From this working hypothesis, we want to achieve those two objectives. Firstly, we want to define two types of residential behavior for low-level or not qualified workers, or for creative or qualified workers. Also, we are working in other classifications of workers in other works, but we don't have results yet, and our approach here is easy. The second objective is develop a first approach to consider tourism destination as opportunity spaces based on residential preference of different groups of workers. In this sense, we want to explore the concept of tourism destination as an urban opportunity space. The study area is from this test is the Penedès Marítim, is a coastal region in Catalonia located between Barcelona and Tarragona. The area has increased the population a lot in the last 20 years. And the area has a big numbers in a second home, sorry. And also have a very big importance of tourism sector, as we see in the last month with the COVID pandemic. For achieve the results, we develop a survey. The first step for do the survey was calculate a representative sample of the occupied inhabitants in Penedès Marítim. But in this sense, for a significant answers, we needed almost 400 surveys. Secondly, we elaborate the questionnaire. Here is a summary of the questionnaire with 5 big blocks of questions. The first with the location of the residence. The second with the characteristics of the residence selection. For example, we ask for the price or prestation of homes, for the taxes in the municipality, for distances to the services, and similar questions. The third block was based on the creativity conditions of place according to Fortis theory of Richard Florida. We ask about the valoration of type of neighbors, about the talent, about technology, and about the territory, mostly the satisfaction with different amenities. The fourth block was based on the place attachment, and we ask about the characteristics of the neighborhood, as if the neighborhood is nice or safe, the identification with the community of the responder, and similar. And finally, a typical block in the surveys, also the socio-demographic question, where we ask about the gender, the age, studies, etc. The fieldwork was done by Eurecat, Tourism's department, during 2 weeks. And we developed the first analysis for found statistical association, for found statistical differences between the groups. We found this difference and we are able to characterize the two groups. In this presentation, we're going to present the results about the significant difference between the two groups in the answers of the survey, in the answer about the residential election for the blocks B, C, and D of the question. For do that, we use the ANOVA for parametric variables and the Kruskal-Wallis and Manguini statistic for non-parametric and linear variables. Then, for develop a more synthetic results, after the test the differences, we develop a factorial analysis, and we will define the determinants from logistic regression. This is the process of the analysis. First, we test the differences by the three groups. Secondly, we do a factorial analysis to look for a principal components of these variables. And finally, we define the determinants by logistic regressions. The first table of the result shows the factors defined by principal component analysis technique. We have 11 factors, and you can see here the different variables that are forming part of the factors. And the difference between the two groups are very visual. The only higher valorization in the creative is the lifestyle. Don't have significance, but is the lifestyle. From a higher valorization for a low-level workers, they have a higher valorization in the components for mobility, for distances, for talent, for perception of place, for amenities, for work, and for neighborhood. The rest of workers are in the medium of the ones and the others. And the results are showing also that there are three components with statistical significant differences: the mobility, the talent, and the amenities. Also, these significant differences are only observed in the factorial components because the interpretation of the difference are quite clear. The second table shows the determinants calculated from logistical regressions for each group of workers. Significant determinants for creative or qualified workers are less probabilities to valor the mobility components, less probabilities to valor the access to talent, less probabilities to valor the amenities of the city. On the other hand, this group has a higher probabilities to valor the lifestyle component. For a low level or not qualified workers have three significant determinants: higher probabilities to valor the component of distance, higher probabilities to valor the perception of place, and also the lifestyle. For conclude, some remarks of these results. Firstly, say that we achieved the two objectives proposed in the beginning of this presentation. We define two types of residential behaviors in tourist places of this study area. Low-level workers are characterized by the higher valorization of tolerance of the distance to services, of the perception of place, the talent, the work, and the neighborhood components. And the creative qualified workers are characterized by higher valorization of lifestyle. These different practices allows to us to consider the gain in urbanity of the tourist places due to different practices generated by these different social groups. Secondly, the results allows us to explore the concept of tourist destination as urban opportunity space. The low-level workers' interpretation of the tourist places is based on an opportunity to gain in a quality of life from better access to work, to distances to services as health services or school services, and in a better perception of the place. On the other hand, the creatives or qualified workers' interpretation gives the main importance to develop their everyday life with the similars, with the people who have the same economic level or develop a similar lifestyle. These results are suggesting the existence of an opportunity dimension in residential election of different workers. Also, led us to consider a similar interpretation of the tourist city for both groups, based on the social promotion options, the social innovation, and the maintenance of the lifestyles with similar people. Finally, we want to point out that this is a first exploratory approach to the concept of opportunity space, and only from the residential point of view. In future research, other points of view such as the mobility or the relationship with the place, will have to be raised. Thanks for the attention and comments, questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you, John, for your presentation. Okay, I checked the YouTube chat. No? Yeah? But I have a question, John. Is the tourist destination still perceived as opportunity space in the context, in the COVID context?
It's a good question. In my opinion, this process, I think that will be emphasized in the future, because it's my observation now in the area. Qualified workers are working in second homes more than 1 year ago. And in the other hand, I think that when the COVID will pass, or we have a vaccine, or we have a keen for achieve the recuperation, I think that the tourist sector will be another time important for determined areas, and a lot of people maybe will go to these areas to live, because they will have more opportunities to find a job. I think it's my.
The second question is of Itri Atai. How do you define the immigrants that are illegal and their residential behavior?
Sorry, the illegal.
It's very. How do you define the immigrants that are illegal and their residential behavior?
I think that this type of people are surviving, and I don't know if they have a specific residential behavior. They need to survive more in this context of the pandemic.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered the question, but
okay. If you want, you continue talking with Itri Atai in the YouTube chat. The other question is the last question. Okay, is of Alejandro González. Okay. Hi, John. You conclude that residential migration of low-skilled workers was due to be closer to job opportunities in tourism. Did you identify uses of residential exclusion from Barcelona?
We are in the work to analyze, because we in the survey asked for where was the past place that the people was living, but we are developing the analysis, and we don't have results about this. But this is a question that we have planned to develop in the next steps of the research. How the people from Barcelona is going to this area, and also to other peripheral areas of the metropolis. The preliminary work for this survey in my PhD thesis show how a lot of or mostly a lot of destinations are attracting the two types of workers, but we only have now the survey for this area. But also in the Costa Brava, we see how municipalities are attracting creative workers and also low-level workers. I don't know if I answered the question.
Okay. I have time for one more question. Okay. Georgina Jane, did you develop this project with the Observatory Department of EURECAT?
No, we contact with Salvador, with I don't remember the name now, with Alicia, and we prepared the survey, and Alicia and her team developed the survey.
Okay, thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for attention and for the questions.
Okay, now is turn of Viana, Alba Viana, okay, and myself, Marta.
Hi.
Hi, Alba, of University of Rovira Virgili University. Okay, the title is Evaluation of the Social Impact of Tourist Research. Okay, Alba, when you want, you share your presentation, okay?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. What? No. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this presentation on the evaluation of the social impact of research in tourism. In these 15 minutes, I will talk about the main concept of social impact assessment, its origin, the main framework, the evaluation criterion in public costs, the tools that different governments have, the indicator, and their application to the POLITUR project. So we start. To define the social impact of the research, we first conceptualize the term social impact. Social impact is the benefit produced society such as human rights, social cohesion, economic cohesion, employment, human capital formation, health and public safety, social protection, and social service like livable communities, culture, consumer interest, security, governance, international cooperation, role of small and medium enterprise, lesson learned, and success histories. The social impact of research, according to Flecha, occurs when scientific knowledge that has been produced, published, and transferred to society and its institution has a positive effect on their chain. Another definition from Lehman Hood determined that the social impact of research is an influence or benefit of the result of the research activity for the research community or for society in general. Social impact assessment is defined as a tool to evaluate and manage the consequences of different research projects on the population. For Van Cley, it is an analytical and research process that aims to influence decision-making and management of social aspects. Becker defined SIA as the process of identifying the future consequences of a current or proposed action as it relates to individual, organization, and social macrosystem. With this in mind, we move on the next slide of the origin. Concern to ensuring sustainability and identify the effect of planned intervention lead to development of the National Environment Policy Act in the United States in 1969. This law required evaluation of all federal projects and programs, and it is this time that environment impact assessment is beginning to take hold. The social impact assessment was developed in the late 1970s because a strong social presence was seen in the EIA, therefore it emerges as a section with the EIA. After the initiation of EIA legislation in several countries, international agencies such as the World Bank and the European Union began to promote EIA in their policy. The European Union creating the EIA directive in 1985, a project to create an oil pipeline in Alaska included social impact assessment in its EIA document in 1973. This is because the project required many US workers who could impact the culture of the Inuit, the local population of that part of Alaska. SIA was originally created to emphasize public disclosure and discussion of potential impact through public participation and consultation with the people. The key to the participatory approach is the evaluation of the impact that can be made by citizens directly affected by an action or project. Therefore, as it evolved, SIA was configured as a tool of transparency that guarantees decision-making in the selection of projects. For this reason, there are countries that have integrated SIA into the planning process, going from being an optional to a mandatory tool in countries such as Australia or New Zealand. SIA has gained visibility with the increase in social specialized and the importance of social issues. It should be a learning process in which the problems are understood, possible impact pathways are analyzed and evaluated, strategies are developed, and monitoring programs in design and implemented. The need for guidelines to apply SIA in project development led the Interorganization Committee on Guidelines and Principles for Social Impact Assessment in 1995 to create a framework composed of 10 stages: public involvement, identification of alternative, baseline condition, scoping, projection of estimated effect, predicting responses to impact, indirect and cumulative impact, changes in alternative, mitigation, and monitoring. Different authors have modified this framework, extending the participatory approach to different stages, creating of a final stage of management and evaluation, or adding a baseline indicator selection stage. But this framework has been the basis for social impact assessment. To show how funding bodies include criteria to evaluate social impact, we have used a Spanish and European call as an example. In Spain, the call for project of 2019 introduces social impact as a criterion in the selection of projects. It values the dissemination of results, open access, social inclusion, criterion, and other values that generate benefit to society. In the knowledge generation modality, this criterion has a weight of 5 out of 100 points, and in the research challenging modality of 10 out of 100 points. In the European Union, the COST program, European Cooperation in Science and Technology, which is responsible for funding research network, has introduced an impact criterion with a weight of 15 out of 50 points. The social impact of the proposal, how it creates knowledge, and how it is disseminated must be clearly identified. In the section of tool, we wanted to show 3 examples used to evaluate research that include social impact as a criteria. In Spain, the Social Impact Open Repository was born in 2017 as the first free and open access global repository to show, share, and store the social impact of research results. Its operation is based on rating in pairs from 1 to 10 the social impact of the project based on their connection with the Sustainable Development Goals, the percentage of improvement achieving relation to the initial situation, the replicability of the impact, the social impact published in scientific journal, and the sustainability achieved by the project finding. There is only one project related to tourism, Atapuerca project. Not being a project directly related to tourism, it reflects a social impact on the local population derived from the increase in employment thanks to tourism. This tool does not reflect the reality of the social impact of the research in Spain, since only 33 projects are represented. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Research Excellence Framework was created in 2014 by the 4 higher education funding agencies. It is a peer-reviewed process formed by a panel of experts that evaluated the quality of the result, the non-academic impact, and the research environment. To search for the case study, go to website and click on the database option on the left. And REF is a very elaborate tool that has analyzed 6,637 case studies in 2014. It incorporates filters that allow for the selection of research with social impact, for example. If we do a search to extract tourism project, we find 478 case studies with impact on society, of which 21 have actually tourism as a project objective. An example in this case study, modeling and forecasting international tourist demand, methodological advancement and innovation, in which the impact description explain that the tourism forecasts they develop are used to elaborate tourism policies and commercial strategies. Now they are working on REF 2021, but the results have not yet been published. In Australia, the Australian Research Council, which advises the government on research matters, developed the engagement and impact assessment tool and carried out the first pilot test in 2017. The EI seeks to represent the impact of Australian research beyond the academic contribution translated into economic, environmental, social, cultural, and other benefits. In this way, it identifies how institutions translate research into impact through mainly qualitative, tangible results. If we access the impact study through its portal, we found a total of 245 researches evaluated in 2019. No case has tourism as its main objective, but it is true that 12 case studies have results that somehow affect tourism activity, such as the case below, preserving and recording the history and archaeology of the Gallipoli battlefield for future generations. You can download a PDF with all the information of the evaluation, in which you are shown section of the summary of the impact or the detailed impact has seen in the images. The project managed to recover war artifacts from the Battle of Gallipoli for its exhibition at the Naval Museum in Canakkale, which aroused growing public interest, obtaining more than 500 mentions in the media. It is an example of social repercussion. These tools have limitations. The systems are not standardized, so they cannot be compared. Furthermore, they have little representation of total research. It is also observed that all the tools developed and post evaluation, being aware of the importance of evaluation, the social impact in all the stages of the research. Within the POLITUR project, we have developed a battery of indicators from different sources to serve as a basis for measuring its social impact. They have been grouped in the 6 areas that appear on the slide: communication and promotion, policy and regulation, economic benefit, technology and new resource, environmental and social improvement. The following slide shows the battery of indicators in each area, such as the number of articles in the media has an indicator of communication, or interview with destination manager has an indicator of policy and regulation. I am not going to read all because we don't have much time. These indicators have been applied to POLITUR project, and the results appear in the following slide. The results that have been obtained in the POLITUR project show a collaboration with various media, such as Tarragona newspaper, the URP digital newspaper, the newspaper La Vanguardia, and other general interest magazines, such as the Cambridge magazine. It has collaborated in television program of TV3 and Reus channel. Interviews have also been granted in the radio, Tarragona Radio, Cadena Ser, Onda Cero. The project has been mentioned in blogs such as Bloomberg, webinar, and even this workshop. POLITUR has been present on Twitter with more than 40 publications. Within POLITUR, interviews have been carried out with public and private institutions, improving the hours of the actor interview, all of whom have the power to influence public decision-making. Furthermore, it can be seen that the project aims to contribute to municipal flood management policies, taking into consideration POLITUR reflection in plenary session of the Town Council in the areas analyzed. Analyzing the mobility and the profile of the tourists allows to design a system of management of mobility flow that serves as a guideline in the elaboration of tourist campaigns. In fact, it was participated in the strategy of tourist marketing of Barcelona and in the guide of good practice of a smart destination. On economic benefit, APER proposal to increase the expenditure of the tourists has the increase of the stay of the cruiser in Tarragona, extending the range of complementary activity offered. The environmental indicators seek that the project collaborate in the reduction of the environmental impact of the tourism. It is proposed the sensitization of the actor of the tourism, the importance of public and private company adopting sustainable practice and incorporating information on sustainability in their reporting cycle is highlighted. This information is transmitted to the destination management. POLITUR technological innovation have allowed collaboration with the Barcelona City Council to create an application that improves the management of the flow of tourism. The project seeks to improve the quality of life of the resident. There is an obvious concern about the saturation of space since it causes mobility limitation in more vulnerable groups, such as people with reduced mobility. In this sense, the management of tourist flow is again key. Thank you very much for your attending. Okay, Marta.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Alba. Okay, I checked the YouTube chat. Okay, in your case, it's evaluation of social impact research. We have started with the POLITUR project selected indicators. Yes. To measure the social impact research, and now we will like to do the same, with, for example, European projects. Okay, in this case, Alba, in your case, please you continue talking the YouTube chat, and okay, we'll start the next. Okay, the next.
If you have further questions, you can send them to YouTube, and I will be very happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Alba. The fourth presentation of this afternoon is Julie Wilson. Julie, okay.
Hi.
Are you here? Okay.
Hi, Marta.
Hi, Open University of Catalonia. The title of your presentation is Participatory Methodologies and Sustainable Tourist Governance from Stakeholder Mapping to Digital Consensus Building in the Mediterranean Region. When you want, thank you. Julie, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Let me just put this on presentation mode and minimize the chat window. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to share, instead of some research findings, which is my usual conference intervention, I'm going to be talking more about the process of a piece of action research I've been doing over the last few years, which stems from an increasing interest in participatory methodologies in the governance of sustainable tourism and the co-design of sustainable tourism. So it's a nice change to be talking about processes instead of findings, although I will touch upon some findings as well. So to start with, I just wanted to kind of sketch out some of the parameters of what it means to design governance for sustainable tourism. And we have to frame this idea in the notion that we've gone from governing sustainable tourism to a model of governance, which is so much more. And as Bramwell puts it, this can extend to steering, regulating, mobilizing actions, and basically coordinating and synthesizing the collective efforts of institutions, decision-making rules, and different established practices. And increasingly incorporating civil society's reactions to tourism activity within this. And this is a topic that's come up several times in the last 2 days, which is nice to see that, that many people are now commenting on this kind of shift. So the idea of governance within the sustainable tourism context would ultimately be about consensus building and very much about driving change via looking for solutions. And I think that most of us that engage with these topics within our research and in practice know that participatory mechanisms have become very central to this kind of governance. And also that increasingly, as we get more advances with technology, that digital support structures are also key. Bearing in mind that this always has to be based on solid methodologies, in which action research has contributed a lot here. And also there's a strong focus on drawing on good and best practice experiences. But of course, these always need to be interpreted within the given scale, timing, and context of the situation in question. So one of the biggest steps beyond of governance in the last 5 years or so, I would say, since Bill Bramwell and Bernard Lane have kind of laid the foundations for understanding what governance can mean for tourism. We've seen an increase in the need to pay attention to the kind of the dark side of all of this, as well as just learning from the good practice. We need to learn from the not so good practice. We need to pay attention to some of the more complex and chaotic dimensions of sustainable tourism, the messy complexities, as they've been termed. And this is often actually where effective responses can be gathered, from looking at what's gone wrong and what could go right in terms of addressing negative externalities. And having talked about over-tourism this morning in great detail, we all know very well what these emerging negative externalities are. I mean, they were always there, but now we've given them a name and we've given them a shape. So these messy complexities can include all kinds of things, including the different trade-offs we have to negotiate, the unevenness of power relationships, where policy has failed, and what we've learned, how we adapt, whether things can be scaled from one context to another, subsidiarity, instability, volatility, and shocks, and that's one thing that's been underlined in the last 9 or 10 months with the coronavirus situation that we're living at the moment. So let me see if I can move this little thing here, because it's blocking everything. To the extent that governance is shifting over the last half a decade or so, we could perhaps start to talk about a deliberative turn in the governance of sustainable tourism. There has been a longer term increase in participation in these processes of governance, but the deliberative aspect has increased a lot. Engaging with how we change tourism is now central to policy debates, and not just what needs changing, but how we might change it. And as civil society is increasingly vocal and increasingly politicized in this respect, we've seen civic actors come to engage more centrally with policy debates. Joseph Cheer mentioned this morning that this is not a new element in terms of community-based tourism and what we've learned from the past, which has a very long trajectory in tourism studies, though perhaps we've had a very narrow view of what participation is in that context, and a very homogeneous view of what community is as well. Tourism management, traditionally being linear, has tended to adopt a kind of formulaic stance when it comes to making plans, and even when plans have been participative, they've been very limited in the respect of translatability to other contexts, and there's been a transplanting process with little real feel for what's going on at the local level. And as a result, any of the value that can be contributed by local communities or the natural environment or all the other kinds of elements we have in the assemblage that surrounds a tourism context isn't taken into account or is only paid lip service. So in that respect, it's useful to understand governance in the sustainable tourism context as centering on the kinds of value that go into co-creating destinations and experiences, and taking different place identities, functions, and context into account. All places are more than destinations after all. 1 minute, trying to change my slide there. And I'd like to refer here to Diane Dredge. We've heard mention of the Tourism Collab this morning from Claudia Milano and Co Koons. I'm very much an appreciator of Diane Dredge's perspectives on tourism governance and co-design in tourism. And this year she said basically that we can't even begin to solve the problems of tomorrow with the same kinds of logic and thinking that created those problems in the first place. And this is kind of the central axis of my presentation today. New scenarios that are emerging require new approaches. And Diane Dredge's perspective on this is to start to bring in an element of design thinking, manual thinking, and new participative methodologies when it comes to building capacity and when it comes to looking for consensus among a diversity of actors. And the idea behind this is that co-designed governance actually manages to listen better to stakeholders and engage their perspectives, needs, and concerns. The plethora of European projects we've seen that use webinars and this kind of thing, and also the social media dialogues that accompany them, do have an impact, and it's been an important impact, but it tends to be lacking in a kind of follow-through or an end result. And they haven't had necessarily kind of successive phasing or participants at different levels of governance. And at the end of it, stakeholders are looking out of these processes to gain a more concrete hold on the actions they could take and what options they have available. So the kind of deliberative turn has evolved, dabbling in different approaches to a kind of action research perspective, including gamification, living labs, as we heard in the keynote earlier this afternoon, storytelling, and another approach is centering on co-creation. And these are the kind of techniques that actually were employed until quite recently in the business of tourism, in the generation of brands and the marketing aspects. And it's only lately that they've started to be used at the center of tourism planning process. We've started to frame tourism challenges with these kind of methodologies to let us include a wider range of actors and a wider range of choreographers of different debates, feeding into to Elsa and Paulo's presentation from this morning. So design thinking and manual thinking actually as approaches aren't particularly new. They have their origins in industrial and product design. And the training courses I've done on this over the past few years, I've been in the room with a load of product designers, which has been absolutely fascinating to see a different side of co-design from the product perspective. But what it does in Dredge's terms, in relation to tourism, is places stakeholders at the center of governance processes, and also posits the idea that the solution that we're looking for is probably already in the room and doesn't need to come from an external expert gatekeeper of knowledge. The solution is at our fingertips as a collective. And it can be applied at different levels in terms of organizational structures, in terms of governance processes and policy design, and it tends to increase the kind of ownership sense or buy-in that stakeholders have, and move beyond just those that have the strongest, loudest voices. And there's also this sense of co-ownership, and everybody in the room, physically or virtually, manages to have a stake in the co-design process. So there's the idea of teamwork, there's the idea of different scales, scalabilities. We can apply this kind of technique to the micro encounter in a tourism destination, just as we might apply it to rethinking an entire destination in terms of its urban function, its regional function, and so on. And the good thing about these techniques is that they tend to be very focused on outcomes, and given their ownership between a collective of people and the emphasis on capacity building by doing, they tend to be quite low risk and then generate measurable and realistic outcomes. You can consult the Manual Thinking website if you want to have a look at the kind of techniques we're talking about. And the keynote earlier in the afternoon talked about kind of the nursery for stakeholders. I mean, this is a very ludic approach to co-design of governance, and that's the joy of it, actually. That's the added value that it can bring. So I mentioned I would focus on the process of the use of manual thinking in particular as a technique in co-design of governance. And I want to talk to you very briefly about a case study of the Mediterranean sustainable tourism community, within which I participated as a facilitator, and talking about co-designing governance. While co-designing governance was an interesting facet, completely coincidentally, of this particular project. It's a horizontal project of the Interreg Med program, which involved 17 separate projects within that umbrella and 200 odd partner organizations as well. So I worked over 5 months with 20 participants taken from this big collective of people involved in sustainable tourism activities in the Mediterranean, and the projects and the support structures and the different agencies that are involved therein. And it was a multi-phasal process using participative dynamics towards consensus building in terms of what was understood by good governance, effective governance, and what kind of things should be emphasized within that umbrella of good sustainable tourism governance. Okay, so there's a combination of synchronized and non-synchronized working methods involving webinars using collaborative whiteboards and Mentimeter and other collaborative voting apps, to also, and this is very important, face-to-face workshops, which obviously has had to take a second place in the COVID era, but I think we can't lose from the scenario altogether. Face-to-face workshops using manual thinking, which is called manual thinking because of the kind of hands-on orientation it has. Non-synchronized working techniques include kind of collaborative work via Google Suite, and the findings of this particular process are available in a policy fact sheet called Governance as a Tool for Sustainable and Responsible Tourism in the Med, which I can share the link for in the chat afterwards. Now, I'm just going to briefly go through some of the different exercises. One of the exercises at the beginning was based on word clouds with the aim of generating a commonly owned definition of sustainable tourism governance in the Mediterranean and its parameters. Another technique which is very important within the manual thinking suite of techniques is brainwriting, and you get these wonderful bubbly maps here. This is an exercise, a shared exercise which generates ideas along a particular line, which are then subsequently organized into clusters and voted upon in a democratic sense, given a score. And in this particular case, from the 70 odd messages proposed, it generated 12 tentative messages, and then underwent an exercise which basically fleshed out these 12 ideas, ranked them in terms of their urgency, as it were, and concreted 4 particular key messages to emphasize within the policy fact sheet at the end of it. Another technique central to manual thinking is the treasure of innocence mapping, which basically fleshes out even further the kind of prioritized ideas and the consensus ideas at the end of the process. And this involves looking at the who, what, why, when, where, and how of each particular message that we want to understand within effective sustainable tourism governance. What we ended up 5 months later with is 4 messages, following an offline non-synchronized process with different parameters set out, and good practice and bad practice examples from within the 17 projects of the Interreg umbrella project. Okay, so just to finish off, I think I'm got a couple of minutes left. Marta will tell me if that's not the case. I just wanted to share at the end of this presentation some of the lessons that are emerging from my engagement with these participative methodologies and the work I've been doing with the Med Sustainable Tourism community. One thing to underline is that these dynamics are much, much more than the tools that we can guide them with. You know, manual thinking is a wonderful, very visual, very hands-on approach. But if there's no solid methodology behind it, you know, there's no way you can even begin to start discussing how we might change tourism in the current context. Another thing to comment is whether face-to-face or virtual is preferable in this sense. At the moment, things have had to go virtual, but I would argue that fundamentally it's a matter of including both kinds of tools, you know. Then in the sense of virtual good practice, it's important to know that, these technology advancements are wonderful, but really we do need to have some kind of strong carefully curated journey behind it. You know, it's not just about using the tools and the virtual post-its. Something has to be devised in the background to be able to bring the issues to the foreground. And in this sense, it's also important to underline that we're talking about the translation of ideas into a different context, and not just the uncritical kind of transplantation of different situations. And especially there's a risk here with taking paradigmatic case studies and transplanting them into several different contexts with absolutely little use for policymakers and stakeholders in the long term. Anyone facilitating this kind of methodology should really try and immerse themselves as much as possible in the realities of the stakeholder collective they're working with, and also the space, place, and moment that we're talking about. And those of you that know me know that I really like to talk about moments, so we mustn't forget the temporal dimension as well as the spatial dimension. Facilitation is a very tricky art, you know. I have a lot to learn as well, but I'm getting there. I think that good facilitation should accompany processes reflexively without imposing any kind of agenda. And this is basically at the heart of action research in general. Yeah, preparation is also vital, as is adaptation to particular scales and contexts that the destination or the micro encounter or the region needs to deal with, needs to get to grips with. And in Diane Dredge's terms, it's about having clear objectives to be able to create a tentative pathway towards consensus without kind of killing off the spontaneous and reflexive dimension that the team of people involved can contribute, you know. And just a final comment in relation to the current situation we're living, it's important to say that participation and deliberation are more relevant than ever in this kind of context we have now, which is the dialectic between recovery of tourism versus the reset of tourism, and how we're going to respond in the future to civil society's increased engagement with these messy complexities that tourism displays. So pre or post COVID, we need to remember in this context that the solution is probably already in the room, and that needs to be taken advantage of in this kind of process. So those are my ramblings on participative methodologies and sustainable tourism governance. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I've put at the end here the Twitter handle for the Med community as well. If anyone's interested in finding out more about the community, the contact details are in the Twitter handle. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Julie. I like your presentation. There are two questions, okay, in the YouTube chat. The first is Antonio Russo. Very inspiring, Julie. Have you had a chance to work with social innovation networks in this format?
Not yet, but I have done some work with protest and resistance collectives using manual thinking, which is kind of still in the oven. It's being worked on still, and it's been wonderful, especially where the collectives in question aren't necessarily mobilizing along the same lines. And we were doing that in relation to not just over tourism in the city of Barcelona, but also in terms of a response to short-term rentals and Airbnb. And it's been really good. The emphasis in that sense has been on offline participation. But we're looking to reproduce that now using Miro in online situations as well. Social innovation collectives, that's a good one. That would be really, really interesting to do.
Okay, the next question is of Andrea Porta. Okay, very interesting. Regarding the stakeholders included in the process, how were them selected?
Okay, well, in this particular project, the stakeholders that were involved in this policy fact sheet were recruited voluntarily by the project. There were 4 policy fact sheets taking into account different dimensions of sustainable tourism in the Med, and I led the governance, sustainable tourism governance fact sheet. So they actually kind of arrived into my process. I didn't select them, and I understand there was a voluntary dimension to that, but they were very diverse. There were many project representatives, and there were also participants from different umbrella organizations and end users actually to the results of the project, such as Med Cities, such as Next Tour, different European initiatives, different international initiatives, Eco-Union, a number of different organizations. So a real diverse bunch of people, and it was fantastic in terms of what everybody was able to contribute from their own side.
Perfect, thanks. Other question? I have a time. No, I have time for 2 questions. Okay. Maria Esperanza, thank you, Julie. Would you consider citizen science as a type of participatory methodology, and if we could make more use of it in further research?
Absolutely. I don't know anybody that's brought citizen science into tourism context yet. I've heard some kind of musings on that, but I don't know any research that's doing that currently, and I think that would be wonderful. Yeah, it's something that I also would love to engage a bit more with as well. I think that anything that places the citizen at the center of these debates is only positive, as long as it's properly done. And as long as it's not just a kind of token involvement, as long as there's genuine participation, then it can only be a good thing.
Perfect. And the last question is Alba Fon. Okay. Thank you very much, Julie. Please, could you recommend that virtual techniques to co-create and co-design new tourist experience?
I would thoroughly recommend manual thinking. Design thinking is very good if you're working in marketing, branding, and the kind of business end of tourism. I find manual thinking very useful because it's very iterative, it's very visual, and it's very good for this kind of more micro scale co-creation or co-design, such as particular experiences. I'm sure other methods are better suited to kind of revisioning destinations and so on, more macro exercises. But if you're talking about kind of micro encounters like experience design, I would definitely recommend manual thinking. And there's a whole range of techniques within there. And I also recommend their training courses. They have a studio here in Barcelona, and the training I've done with them has been really, really useful. But yeah, there are many techniques as well. Living lab approach has a lot to offer. There are all kinds of things. There are all kinds of things, and it's nice to hear within these 2 days that there are other academics working with these kind of more practical applications of participative methods in an action research context.
Perfect. Thanks, Julie Wilson, for your presentation and for your answer. I am with you. Continue to talk in YouTube chat. Thank you very much. Thank you. The last presentation is of Raquel Santos, okay, Oscar Saladié y Viana Bombana, okay, Ostelea Tourist Management School, Santos&santos Tourist Care, and Rovira Virgili University, and Autonomous University of Barcelona. The title of the presentation is Will Climate Change affect the attractiveness of Catalonia beach? Okay. Raquel, when you want.
Yes.
Viana Bombana, okay. Okay, Raquel.
Okay, thank you, Marta. I hope you can see my screen. Well, we would like to thank the opportunity to present our research in this workshop. I'm going to present this research, sorry, I'm in the last. One moment, please. Okay, sorry. So what I was saying is that I'm going to present this research with Viana Bombana from Autonomous University. And we are going to present a part of a paper that is still in process, so some of the results are provisional. We structured the presentation in these 4 sections, and as you saw in the title, we would like to answer if Catalan beaches will be less attractive due to climate change. In this context, we have to consider that there are several factors that influence tourist decision-making about their travel destinations. Some of these factors are related to the individual tourist, and some of these factors are related to the destination. Then, in the concrete case of coastal destinations, we identify 3 key factors, which are the quality of beaches, the weather and climate, and the availability of water for recreational uses. In fact, climate is a key resource for tourism, not only for coastal tourism, tourism in general, and there are many examples about the influence of climate on the tourism management. However, not all the tourism offer depends at the same degree on climate conditions, and actually, sun and sea tourism is one of the most dependent models of tourism on climate conditions. And consequently, this tourism offer is one of the most vulnerable tourism offer to climate change, because their essential attributes are expected to suffer effects of climate change, such as in the temperature, in beaches, and marine ecosystems. On that sense, the Mediterranean region is considered a hotspot of vulnerability of tourism to climate change. And in the Mediterranean region, tourism, and concretely coastal tourism, is a key sector for the economy of many countries. This is the case of Spain. Spain was ranked as the 2nd country in the world in number of international arrivals, at least before the COVID crisis. And in Spain, Catalonia is the autonomous community that receives the major part of arrivals, more than 20% of arrivals in Spain. And in Catalonia, beyond of Barcelona city, the most part of tourism activities concentrated in the coastal area. But if we consider the latest projections on climate change in Catalonia, both the demand and the offer might be affected. For example, due to the temperature increase, due to water scarcity for tourism activities, and due to the reduction of beaches availability for recreation. Then, taking into account, I'll explain it before, the main objective of this research is to analyze if the increase in temperature, the reduction of beach area, and water scarcity might affect beach users' decisions to stop visiting certain beaches. A secondary objective of the research is to explore the different perceptions according to socioeconomic characteristics, transport, accommodation, and the origin of tourists. And the third objective is to explore the implications of tourist perceptions for adaptation strategies at destinations. To achieve this objective, we developed the research in the Catalan coast, which is marked in this map, as you can see. And during the high season in July and in August in 2016, we carried out 867 surveys in 18 Catalan beaches. To design the questions, we established 3 blocks of information. The first one about socio-demographic characteristics of beach users, a second one about beach users' stay, and the third one about the users' perception regarding the impact of climate change on beaches, and concretely about temperature increase, reduction of the beach area, and water scarcity. To select beaches, we took into account 2 main criteria. On the one hand, we wanted to analyze beaches along the Catalan coast, and on the other hand, we took into account the type of beach according to the urbanization development. Here you can see the number of surveys we made in each type of beach. What we wanted was to represent the heterogeneity of the territory, as you can see in this map, all of the analyzed beaches. And here we show you the concrete beaches and the number of beaches by province and by type of beach. About the selection of the sample, we consider that population on beaches is infinite due to the constant in and out flow of beach users. So as other authors did before, we set a standard of 2 hours spent on each beach for 2 researchers to apply the survey. About the implementation, just to point out that we carry out the surveys during working days in 4 languages. And the collected data were analyzed by different methods. Concretely, for the first and for the second blocks, we use descriptive statistics. And in the third block, we use Kruskal-Wallis and Dunnett test. And now Brianna will continue with the results and the conclusions.
Thank you, Raquel. Good afternoon to everyone. I will now carry on this presentation by presenting some of the main results found and wrap up a few conclusions at the end. I'll start by highlighting that some of the main characteristics of these surveyed users. So by looking at the right side of the presentation, we may say that about half of the users surveyed are from Catalonia. The other half being distributed between internationals with 37% and the rest of Spain, accounting for 11%. Here at the bottom of the slide, when looking particularly to beach types, we see that on urban beaches, the general values are somewhat inverted between Catalans and foreigners. On the other hand, on natural beaches, and especially semi-urban beaches, we find the highest proportion of users coming from Catalonia, although the slices confirmed by other Spanish autonomous communities remains pretty much the same for all beach types. In what refers to lodgement, somewhat relating to the percentage observed for users coming from Catalonia, habitual and second residents together sum up almost half of the interviewers. Other types of lodgements refer mainly to hotels, campings, and rented apartments. The graphs at the bottom show that these are particularly higher on urban beaches, where we also recognize the highest percentage of internationals. Raquel, please. Oh, thank you. So people using motorized vehicles to go to beaches correspond slightly to a higher fraction when compared to those using active means of transportation. Nonetheless, looking at the bottom graphs, we see urban beaches differing significantly from the other 2 beach types, since 60% of its users arrived at the beach on foot or by bicycle. Regarding the age of the participants, those aged over 60 are linked to a small slice of the total amount, and those between 31 and 45 years old are linked to the biggest one. Finally, about 2/3 of the sample integrated male respondents. So now introducing the main results concerning some of the climate change effects on coastal zones. First, we observed that about 40% of respondents are very sensitive to potential reduction in beach area, and another 40% are moderate in this regard. Especially urban beaches displayed 50% of users being very sensitive to this issue, where almost 1/3 of the total of respondents would accept no loss in beach area. So when look at the results, according to the transportation mean used, first it's noteworthy that the category others corresponded to few answers when compared to other categories. Independently from beach type, at least 1/3 of the answers show a very high sensitivity in beach reduction, particularly from those using active means of transportation. These, although, should not be a surprise to us, given that they prevail especially on urban beaches, which were the ones deploying easier and diversified transportation access accesses to beaches, highest proportion of internationals, and the highest percentage of high sensitivity in this sense. So further on, significant differences were found between habitual residents and second residents, and between both of these groups and other types of lodgement, being the first ones less sensitive to reduction. Relating to that, sensitivity increases from foreigners to Catalans, being in other regions of Spain in a mean term. So by analyzing all these different groupings, due partially to the urban context, international tourists arriving at the beach on foot or by bicycle, that means active means of transportation, tended to deploy higher sensitivity to beach reduction. So in the second point, in what regards to temperature changes, the average range of an ideal temperature was established being from about 24 to 32 degrees, whilst the temperature from which users would not keep coming to beaches is about 35 degrees and a half. That being visible here by the red points presented in this graph. In general, there were no significant differences between users of different beach types, except for minimum temperatures between urban and semi-urban beaches, lower in the case of this last type of beach, especially significant differences for minimum and maximum temperatures, as well as for temperature from which they would not come to beaches again, were found for the groupings related to origin, showing that those living in Catalonia or other parts of Spain, also linked to habitual or second residents, accept better temperature changes. In this sense, foreigners are the ones who seek for higher minimum temperatures and lower high temperatures from which they would stop coming to beaches. Now, in the case of transportation means, we only found significant differences for maximum temperatures between those using active transport or motorized vehicle related to the urban context. That is, lower maximum temperatures are preferred by users that came to beaches in motorized vehicles. And finally, it's also worth to mention that age showed to be an important factor for determining the perception of users about maximum temperatures, to which the youngest accept higher values. They are less sensitive. As a third climate change effect analyzed, it was kind of a surprise also to us that only 1/3 of users, maximum, would not come to coastal municipalities if water restrictions were present, that being for drinking water in particular and represented by orange areas in this graph. It is noteworthy that irrigation here refers to gardens, green areas, and etc. Following the general panorama, drinking water continued to be the most important restricting factor for all groupings. The results for water irrigation, water pools, ponds, and drinking water did not present significant differences among different means of transportation, though it may be showed here for water pools and ponds between active transport and others, but we should recall that the category others is formed by few people. Regardless of that, some points should be emphasized, especially the fact that this general low to moderate sensitivity to water restrictions increases with age, at least for water irrigation and drinking water. Also, those in habitual or second residences coming from Catalonia or other regions of Spain are less sensitive to restrictions in water for irrigation or for pools and ponds. On the other hand, these happen to be the most sensitive to a potential lack of drinking water. So wrapping up some of these results, we saw that in general, high to moderate sensitivity related to reduction in beach area for all users. Those coming from abroad or other autonomous communities accepted the worst, but especially on urban beaches, where also the offer of tourist lodgements and on-foot bicycle accesses happen to be more common than in other types of beach. So the The origin is related to the type of lodgement in these analysis. Foreigners are also the most sensitive to changes in temperature, given that seek for higher minimum temperatures, but in comparison to others, they would accept worse the increase of temperatures. Also, younger users accept higher maximum temperatures. And finally, regarding water restrictions, there is a general low sensitivity, despite of drinking water being a restricting factor for 1/3 of users, especially from those lodging at habitual or second residences. General sensitivity seems to increase with age. In this sense, though further analyses are planned, we may deduce direct implications coming from these results on future adaptations strategies at coastal destinations and tourist promotion, in particular internationally. We plan future research that would discuss the results further, comparing the projections of climate change and the answers of the survey, if the Catalan coast's attractiveness might be affected by climate change or not. We look forward to listen to your comments and questions, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Raquel and Brianna. Brianna, I have 2 questions, okay, of E3 at I. The first question is, do you consider the effects of indirect water usage as well?
I will maybe answer for the other authors as well. It was kind of a surprise to us because they were in general low values for these perception. I think that's not something that we were expecting, but it's kind of that we could believe that at least for residents, this is not so a key factor. And so internationally, it could be something that would respond to expectations of foreigners in this sense. So for me at least, it was not what we were expecting, but at the end we could justify these results in this sense about foreigners looking at new destinations if they couldn't find what they were seeking here in Spain in these days at least, or in the moment that we applied the surveys. I don't know if Raquel or Oscar would like to add something.
No, for me it's okay with your answer.
Perfect, thank you, Brianna and Raquel. And we invite you to continue talking in YouTube chat, okay, for any questions. And it's okay, okay. It's time to close the session. Thank you very much. Thank for your attendance, and your enthusiasm, okay, in YouTube, in the chat, in YouTube chat, okay. Salvador and Paolo Russo, you have the floor to close the international workshop webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Marta. Sorry, Julie was also there in the screen. I'm sorry for that. Thank you, Marta. It's time for the last words in this webinar about. I remember the title about mobilities, transforming destinations, urban and regional policies, digital regulatory mechanisms, and place prosperity and sustainability. There have been 2 days fully of ideas, fully of results, fully of new approaches. We are really happy with the progress of the webinar. And I think that from tourism policies to mobility regimes, from digital footprints to urban design, from tourism urbanization to social license, from social justice to social impact. We have really have the opportunity to got many new versions of the concepts that we had, many insights. You have had the opportunity to renew ideas on, and especially to cross-fertilize knowledge. That it was one of the main goals of this event. Of course, an event that is related with this POLITUR project, and it has been also the opportunity for us, for the members of the team of the POLITUR project, to also deliver in this format some of our advancements, and also to share with all of you that are not members of this team, and also to get from you insights, criticisms, and other comments that will be very useful for us. In these last words, I want, of course, I have to also to keep one moment to congratulate all of us, not only for the presentations, but also and especially for these really fertile conversations, multiple conversations that we have had through the YouTube chat. I think that they have been really good, and they have also had the opportunity to contact, to create new contacts between us. Thanks to the keynote speakers, thanks to Monica, Jan, Joseph, Dejan, thanks to chairs, Paolo, Julie, Marta, thanks to presenters, all people involved in these 20 presentations that we have had during these 4 sessions. Thanks to the team, to the organizing team, really important in this online version of, for us, one of the first online event version in this sense that we have done. Trini, Cinta, Jordi, Eugenia. Thanks, of course, to all the attendees, and of course also thanks to the supporting institutions, Eurecat, the Technological Center of Catalonia, the Tourism Department of the City Council of the City of Barcelona, to Regional Studies Association, of course, the Open University of Catalonia. Thanks also to the doctoral program, the Tourism and Leisure doctoral program, that all the students were invited to participate in the webinar, and thanks also to Atlas for having this connection between this seminar and their own program, academic program. It's full of cooperation, full of sharing, full of combination of different perspectives, insights, and also different approaches, full of possibilities. Of course, I was mentioned before that this event, it's under the umbrella of the POLITUR project. It's the final event of the POLITUR project. And I also to thank the Ministry of Tourism, of Science and Innovation, Education, Science and Innovation of Spain, that is funding this project that is close to end at the end of this 2020. Okay, finally, just some practicalities. You have all the abstracts of all presentations in the website of the webinar, so you can get them from there. Also, I have to announce that we will send to you as soon as possible all the certificates to all the presenters and also to all the attendees, in order to justify and to let know to anyone that could need that you were participating in this webinar. And you also will have really soon the links to the sessions that are in YouTube, and we will have the opportunity to use them for your personal, professional, academic, educational convenience. I have also to say, if you have any further inquiry, any question, any comment that you need, you have our email address, workshop.politur@urv.cat. That could be, you can use it for any question that you have. That's all. That is the end of the webinar of this conference. Take care. We are in not easy times. Stay safe. We wish you to stay healthy during these times, and wish you the best to all of you. And of course, we wish that we can meet in person all together, maybe soon in any other conference, in any other activity that maybe we can prepare here. We are eager to prepare it every 2-3 years, this kind of webinars here in Catalonia, and have the opportunity to also discuss in person with all of you. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Hacemos lo de esperar, ¿no?